Good morning, my AP Euro friends. It is 8:15. I got a little bit later start because my video from my um, A Push Kids took longer than I thought because I thought I had a quiz and I didn't. But anyway, so we're ready to go. I'm not going to talk really long. I just kind of want to get us up to um, um, Russia, and I guess maybe we'll see how far we get. So we are on page 8. We had talked about the Grand Empire, building the Grand Empire, putting all of his um, siblings and in laws on the throne across Europe. And essentially, that's what helps build his empire. Even though his brothers and sisters are sitting on these thrones, he's still in control of them. He's also made economic treaties with Russia, Prussia, and Austria. So now his only country that he hasn't been able to reign in is England. Great Britain, I'm sorry, is Great Britain. The problem then becomes the way he treats these countries. He treats them as secondary countries. Instead of taxing the French people to pay for stuff in France, he taxes the Russians, the Austrians. And it won't take long for them to realize that that's the treaties that they signed to keep peace doesn't really help them at all. And so what happens on page 8 is the War of the Third Coalition. And remember, I told you don't have to know all these. It's too in depth for the test itself. So the War of the Third Coalition is about invading Great Britain. That's the last thing that he wants to do. That's the last box that he needs to check. And it's something, as a leader, a general, an emperor, you don't want to leave that box unchecked. So he makes plans to begin to invade Great Britain. 1805, Austria signs an alliance with Great Britain. And again, these alliances are really tricky. When we head into World War I, we're 100 years away from that. But one of the things that leads us into World War I are all these crazy alliances. Countries sign alliances to protect themselves, but it also means they have to honor those. And oftentimes those countries don't. They're entangling, they're secret alliances. So that's the first part. Austria had already signed peace treaties with France, and now they've signed an alliance with Great Britain. So that's happening. Coalition was complete with the addition of Russia and Sweden. So Napoleon's conquest of Italy convinced Russia and Austria that Napoleon was a threat. Great Britain was working behind the scenes. You guys don't know what this guy is. You need to sign with us. And so once he did that to Italy, Russia, Austria jumped ship and signed a treaty with Great Britain. And so we have, once again, a really important battle, the Battle of Trafalgar. If you know anything about London, or if you've ever been fortunate enough to go to London, one of the most places you must go is Trafalgar Square. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. The giant statue is awesome. It's at a very busy corner, lots of stuff happening. But it is the Battle of Trafalgar. And again, it is the destruction, once again, of the French and Spanish fleet. And remember, Spain is fighting with France because his brother sits on that throne under Lord Horatio Nelson. He is going to die in that battle. He becomes like the biggest Navy hero of all times in Great Britain. Establishes, again, please look, the supremacy of the British Navy for over a century. And many, especially British historians, would say until the beginning of World War II, Great Britain is going to rule the seas as a result. Though killed in battle, Nelson becomes one of the greatest military heroes in English history. I mean, he is highly revered. And then finally, that takes place. That invasion is not going to happen. We've now moved to the Battle of Austerlitz, and this is in December, which is never a good time to fight a battle in Central Europe. It's cold. Alexander the First pulls Russian troops out of the battle, giving Napoleon another victory. The Battle of the Battle of Austerlitz is one of Napoleon's greatest achievements. The Third Coalition is not going to collapse. Napoleon is the master. Look at 6D. Napoleon is the master of Western and Central Europe. He has all of it. He has all of Europe as a result of the loss of the Battle of Austerlitz. And they lose the Battle of Austerlitz because Russia leaves, which does not set a good tone with your allies to just pull out of the battle. If you look on the bottom of page 8, you see the Arch of Triomphe, which again is beautiful. If you ever get to see that in France, it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. A lot of times at night, they will put lights across the top there and spell out things like when France won the World Cup, they put all their pictures on it. It's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. But Napoleon builds this to commemorate his victory at Austerlitz. And again, it is a monument to Napoleon. Paris is full of monuments to Napoleon, this being one of the most important ones. Again, Prussia is going to be twice defeated. Austria can't keep up with anything at all. Russia says, let me just sign another peace treaty, please. And so at the top of page 9, we get really an important peace treaty that kind of sets up the next few years. It's called the Treaty of Tilst in 1807. The provisions, and please look at this. These countries are giving up a lot to protect themselves from Napoleon. Prussia loses half of its population in its lands that it cedes to France. It has to give up half of its country. Russia accepts Napoleon's reorganization of Western and Central Europe. Russia also agrees to accept Napoleon's continental system, and that's the last thing that we're going to look at. And in many ways, this is the height of Napoleon's success. This is Napoleon at the top. He has conquered everything. France and Russia become allies. Alexander accepts Napoleon's domination. He dominates. And France continues to occupy Berlin and control of Western Germany. Now, on page 9, you want to put a big, giant box around the reorganization of Germany. Remember when I told you on the bottom of page 6, his domination over other nations unleashes nationalism? It's going to happen first here. So before we go into this, remember why we haven't really spoken about Germany, Germanic states, except Prussia, because Prussia is pretty big. And the reason being is there's a whole lot of them. They hold no power. They have no organization. Nobody's willing to give up power to make anything bigger. It's always benefited France and Russia to have all this small little things in the center of Europe. So there's there's a buffer zone, no power source, no king of Germany. Well, that's about to change because of Napoleon. Napoleon decides it's time to reorganize those Germanic states, and I'm going to do it. And he does. And he does it really well, as an army general would. And what it's going to lead to is a real Germany. And when that real Germany becomes real Germany in 1870, it starts making wars with everybody. So, after soundly defeating the two most powerful, influential German states, Austria and Prussia, Napoleon says, I'm going to reorganize. He consolidates. At this time, there's 300 independent political entities. And remember, everybody in Europe wanted those Germanic states to stay 300 independent. That's one less king, one less army, one less country that everyone has to worry about until Napoleon. And he consolidates them into the Confederation of the Rhine. And the Rhine is the river. Rhine is a really important river that runs through Germany. It's a beautiful river as well. And he does that into 15 Germanic states. So we go from 300 of no power to 15, minus the three big ones, Austria, Prussia, and Saxony. He names himself the Protectorate of those confederation, and many of those little states are going to be abolished. The Holy Roman Empire, abolished. That has no control any longer. He is now the emperor of that place. A new kingdom of Westphalia. Oh, good grief. Okay, new kingdom of Westphalia. Abolish feudalism, which is a positive. And here's why we put the box around D. E. Napoleon unwittingly awakened German nationalism due to France's domination and repression of the Germanic states. And that German nationalism is going to be the largest driving factor in Europe for the next 100 years. It's tremendous. It is all of that pent up hundreds and hundreds of years of Germany being just stuck there in the middle. He brings them all together and they are going to explode. All right, our last topic. Oh, before we go into our last topic, today I have decided to insert questions from the lecture into the quiz. And the only way that you're going to know the answer to those is if you watch the lecture. So the first one is a very easy one. And it is, what is Mrs. Norris's favorite Little Debbie cakes? Fancy cakes. I love these fancy cakes. I guess it goes that way. I'm backwards. I love them. They are all kinds of deliciousness. You can only get them in Basler's, but they're delicious. Fancy cakes. Answer to a quiz question. So our last topic is going to be the continental system. And this is Napoleon's last hope to bring down Great Britain. He couldn't bring them down militarily, so he's now going to do it economically. And it's called the continental system. Napoleon decides to wage economic warfare against Britain. It's the only thing that he has available to him to try to bring it down. And he's going to shift these alliances in order to bring down Great Britain economically. Remember, Great Britain is a powerful economic force. It is the driving economic force of Great Britain and of Europe, and many people at this point would say the world. It's the Walmart, Amazon of the world. Actually, I should change Walmart and make it now Amazon. It was always Walmart, but now it's Amazon. I'm going to change that to Amazon. That Great Britain is the Amazon of the world at this point. So he sets out with these different decrees, meaning they're just things that he puts out under his name that everybody has to follow. So the first one, and these are in alphabetical order, because we do kind of have to know a little bit about these. The first one is the Berlin Decree, and Berlin is that new state, Confederation of the Rhine in Germany. And in 1806, Napoleon sought to starve Britain by closing ports on the continent to British commerce. So that's the first thing he does, is every port in Europe is closed to a British ship. So the entire Atlantic coast of Europe, not a single British ship can dock there, either to drop off goods to sell and get money, or to pick up goods to drop off back in England. England is a small island. They don't grow a lot of food there. They grow some, but they really relied especially on those upper European nations to provide them with food sources. So that is closed. Napoleon coerces Russia, Prussia, Denmark, Portugal, Spain to adhere to that boycott. England, in response, issues an order in council that neutrals might enter colonial or continental ports only if they first stopped in Great Britain. So that he says that Great Britain, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Great Britain says, okay, fine, Napoleon, we'll up you one. You aren't going to enter any continental ports if they stop in Great Britain. So that again becomes Great Britain seeks to strangle French trade. So you can't come in, any of those ships can come in to Great Britain. If any of those neutral ships, so neutral countries, like, let's just make it for instance, neutral country, the United States. If the United States sends a ship first to France, it can't come into Great Britain. That's what those council in order says. So to any other country, if you stop anywhere in Europe first, we are not going to let you into England. Does that make sense? So if you are India and you are trading with England, if you stop in Spain first, they aren't going to let your ship into England. And that's a problem because England, again, is the Amazon of the world. So Napoleon says, I'll up you one more. The Milan Decree was his response. He says the same. Any neutral ship that enters a British ship for a British port first will now be confiscated. We're just going to take your ship, blow it up. That's his wartime mentality. In the middle of all this is happening is the War of 1812. And once again, the War of 1812 is between the United States and Great Britain. And once again, thankfully, Great Britain is involved in these Napoleonic wars and can't focus its eye of Moldor on the United States. So we win again, not because we're awesome, but because Great Britain couldn't focus all of its might on one place. The U.S. eventually declares war against Britain in defense of its neutral shipping rights. And 7, the continental system ultimately was a major failure. It's going to fail, and you need to know at least 3 of these reasons why it fails. Cause widespread antagonism to Napoleon's rule. Like, that's not going to win you the hearts and minds of your people by economically starving them out. Imports from America were too much in demand in Europe. Everybody wanted this new country's stuff, and it, again, created antagonism. European industries could not equal Britain's output. That check mark, check mark, check mark. That's the problem. That's a problem. I want you to think about the continental system in a 21st century. Who can compete with Amazon? Nobody. Nobody can compete with Amazon. The only way you can compete with Amazon is through having a different type of good that you can't buy on Amazon, which I don't know what that is. And so that's what France was trying to do, compete with Amazon, and you can't. Sadly, you're going to lose. Without railroads, the continental system was impossible to maintain. You can't move goods throughout. Shippers, shipbuilders, again, were ruined. And for Britain, okay, fine, you won't let us trade in Europe. We'll just go to Latin America, and we'll just go to the United States. We'll go to China. We'll go to India. They've got an ocean of ships. They can go anywhere. And so, again, that is a failure. It's hard to bring about an economic hardship to an economic superpower. Think how hard now it would be to bring down Amazon. I don't know what will, right? And Napoleon could not do it. It is the one thing he could never do was bring down Great Britain. And it is one of Great Britain's most powerful historical moments that they are overwhelmingly proud of, that Napoleon brought down all of Europe, but not them. All right, last question of the day that's going to be on the quiz. Some of you might have noticed Mrs. Norris's red jersey today. It is match day for my favorite football team, better known as soccer here in the United States, and it is Manchester United. That's Mrs. Norris's favorite football team, and that is going to be a test question. Manchester United plays today, and Mrs. Norris is wearing her red Manchester United jersey to support match day. So that'll be another test question you can get if you watch this all the way to the end. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy. I think it's going to be a dreary day, but enjoy. Bye.